Hi guys! Today I wanted to make a video about how I planned my long-term backpacking trip on the Ice Age Trail. My trip was only 6 or 7 days, and we went for about 80 miles. For me, I still consider myself a pretty novice backpacker. I've only been backpacking for about 3 years, and most of my trips, well, all of my trips have been only 3 days max. So planning for a trip like this that was, substantially longer, challenged my skills and my knowledge as a backpacker. So I wanted to make this to help anyone who might be considering doing a longer trip on the Ice Age Trail. So first thing that I needed to do to plan my trip was to go on the website for the Ice Age Trail Alliance and check out some of the things that they have on their page. They have some really useful links, like about camping, backpacking, trips, things like that I ended up using. What I would say about their page though is that it's not always user friendly. You kind of have to backtrack pretty often to find certain things, or like their search bar wasn't useful. I had to really dig around to find a couple of the links. So if you're using their website and you find something useful, make sure to bookmark it so that you don't have to waste time on the website like I did. Next thing that I did was I had to buy 3 of their books that the Ice Age Trail Alliance publishes. Your library might have these available to borrow. My original plan was to do that, but then my library was especially slow, and I'm actually glad that I ended up ordering them. You can either order them like a hard copy, or you can do what I did was I did a digital download, and I downloaded it onto my Kindle app on my phone so that I had all of those resources right there with me on the trail. The first book is the data book. The data book looks like, the data book, they all look kind of the same. The covers, they all have those 3 different covers there. The data book purely tells you like mileage from point A to point B. It both starts at the eastern terminus and the western terminus, so you can figure out how many miles it is from one point to another, or how many miles you've done in total. It also is good. It was also reassuring for me. The section that I did had a lot of connecting roads on it, and it told you exactly, which direction to go. Things like that. It was kind of helpful. It also had things that were nearby, like nearby campsites. I think there was like a fishery area, things like that, things that are nearby that you might be interested in while you're on the trail. Step 3 was a very complicated part for me personally. Step 3 is finding places to sleep using the resources you just bought. I personally found it very difficult to find enough places to sleep because, as on most trails, there are designated camping areas, and I had recently been having a conversation with someone who finished his Appalachian Trail through hike, and he explained to me how, every 8 to 16 miles there was several campsites you can stay at, and whether that's because there's more people on the Appalachian Trail, so there's a higher demand, but you just can't, you can't step 100 feet off the trail and camp. Especially because a lot of this trail goes in people's yards, goes on people's property, goes through farmers' fields, stuff like that. Or a lot of the trail that we were on was actually going through like this marsh-like area, and it had just rained, so a lot of the ditches that were next to the trail, they were just full of water. So we had to stay, of course, in these designated camping areas. Now there's several different kinds of camping areas. There's either like a dispersed camping area, which you'll know if it is or not based off of what the map tells you, which is when there's an area that says, okay, within this sign you can camp anywhere. We only came across one of those on our 80-mile trip, or 2 of those, excuse me. Then there's other like built up backpacking sites specifically for through hikers. They're different than dispersed camping areas because the dispersed camping areas, they leave no trace, you can't have any bonfires. These other backpacking sites, they have a fire ring, they have like a shelter that you can sleep under. We didn't see any of those in the 80 miles that we were on. There's one more that we didn't use or didn't see. But then there's also like built up actual campsites for people who just are camping, which is the majority of where we stayed. We stayed in a lot of RV parks. But I guess I cannot say enough how much of an issue it was for us to find a place to stay. Because on the map that I downloaded on the atlas, there would sometimes be 20, maybe almost 30 miles between any given like designated camping area. Like we couldn't hike that many miles in a day. And there was one point that we were so desperate. We were going through our path on Google Maps, and we found a bar in the middle of like a 20 some odd mile segment that like we just had to call them up and like beg, hey, if we buy enough pizza and beer, can we sleep in your backyard? And so luckily they were nice enough to allow us to do that, but I'm not saying that every business will or should let us do that, right? So that brings me to another thing, is trail angels. The only reason I know what trail angels are because of watching other YouTubers talk about their experience with trail angels, like on the Appalachian Trail or the CDT. For those that don't know what trail angels are, they are people who, in one way or another, go out of their way, offer their time, offer their services, offer food, water, housing, whatever, for people that are hiking, either on the trail or, in this instance, off the trail. There was one day we were walking down this connecting route, and we should have taken advantage of it, but she drove up to us and she said, hey, my house is right off the trail. It's right over there. A lot of people, when they're coming through on the trail, they stay in my backyard. If we would have known that that was there, we would have contacted her well ahead of time and would have, asked her politely, can we stay there? But because we didn't know about this, if we would have stayed there, it would have thrown off our next day, right? So it would have been nice to have found on the Ice Age Trail like a way to find the trail angels. You know what I mean? It would have helped a lot. Step 4 for us was to portion and plan out our food that we had and that we were carrying. Depending on how long of a trip you're going to do yourself, you might have to send yourself a drop box at a post office ahead of time. When I was trying to search for the list of post offices, that was one of the links that was incredibly hard to find on the website. But you have to kind of plan out each meal, how many calories you're going to allow for yourself, and plan ahead, plan extra, because we had to refuel at a bar once, several times. So just plan for the unexpected, have enough food. Don't carry too much as well. Which brings me into the last thing that I did to double check that I had everything that I was ready, was check your gear, pack your pack, wear it, weigh your pack, and really sit down and think, do I really need this? Do I need this? Because you're carrying everything with you. I think my friend that went with, Laura, she had said something how like you want only 20% of your body weight on your back. I might be wrong. But she's significantly smaller than I am. I'm tall and I can carry a lot. Somehow her pack weighed more than mine, and her pack was right around that 20% weight, and her feet really suffered for it. So I ended up having to carry some of her weight so that she would be able to make it. So really evaluate what you're bringing and decide if you need it or not. If you don't need it, chuck it. Because you don't want to chuck it on the trail, right? Just chuck it at home. So if you're thinking about doing even like a section hike or, you know, a longer section hike of the Ice Age Trail, I hope that you found this a little bit helpful. I will be doing other videos on our day-to-day experience. I'll be doing video on the exact path that we took and the campsites that we stayed at, and I will talk about those different campsites. So if you're interested in those, make sure to check them out, give them a look, see if they're any help for you. If you enjoyed listening to what I have to say, feel free to, you know, check around my YouTube channel, check out my Facebook page at mountaineermay.com, at Facebook/mountaineermay. Anyways, I'll talk to you guys later.